Welcome everyone to our Ag Alumni Speaker Series, our March Speaker Series, our final one of the semester. We're excited to have you guys join us today. We have a great speaker, and Dr. Phil's with us today, and so I appreciate you taking the time to sit in on this presentation, and welcome. Before we get started, we just want to talk about Ag Week, and we had a great week with Ag Week this week, and this is just a few highlights from our week. We had our virtual speed networking session where we had 77 students attend, and 16 alumni representatives and industry representatives. We also held our vet school and alumni and law school virtual open house last night, where we had 120 students attend the vet school session, as well as 27 students attend our law school session. So again, these are just some of the highlights from this week. We had a great week, and then of course concluding today with our alumni speaker series. We do have Dr. McMeans on the call today. Dr. McMeans, did you want to say a few words before we get started?
First of all, I'm happy to be here and to had an opportunity to participate in our Ag Week. We had a lot of exciting activities starting Monday, and meeting with students. The first time I had an opportunity to see students face to face, social distancing, of course, and some other activities. But I'm just happy to be here and also to be a part of this alumni series with you guys, and great to see my friend, Dr. Deacue Fields, on to be the presenter. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Dr. McMeans. We appreciated the partnership with Southern this week, and we look forward to partnering with you guys again on future endeavors with the college. And so we also have our ASA Sweepstakes. That's what we call them this year. And I'm going to bring on Zach Mayfield, one of our student representatives, to talk about the winners and recognize the winners for our ASA Sweepstakes. Zach?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. And thank you for everyone joining the call. So this year obviously has been a very trying year for all of us. And so we really wanted to still offer the opportunity for our clubs to and advisors to apply for those sweepstakes awards, so they can show and display what they've been able to do throughout the pandemic. And so what we really tried to base our application around was service and just being able to engage our student bodies in a unique and different way. And so without further ado, Ms. Lindsay, if you can go on to the next slide. Our Club of the Year winner is SNDA at LSU. And so this club has been very involved in all aspects of the College of Agriculture. They've been able to provide opportunities to their students and to the community and engage those different stakeholders in their program of activities. And so we just wanted to give a special shout out to SNDA and just display a little bit of the things they've been able to do. So again, congratulations to SNDA. We have your plaques in the office. So if you just want to stop by 142 Wooden anytime, just do that for us. And then our next sweepstakes is Advisor of the Year. And so this goes out to Dr. Kathleen Williams. And so she is the advisor of many clubs, but specifically on this application, it was sent in by Dairy Science Club. And Dr. DW, as she is known, has been very involved in the student body and is seen as an ally to our students and advocating and making sure that those students have the best programming and experiences across the board. And so Dr. Kathleen Williams, I'm not sure if she was able to get on the call. She might be in a class, but other than that, we have her plaque as well. But congratulations to DW and SNDA. So yeah.
Thank you, Zach. And congratulations, you guys. We also have Campus Federal on the call today, and Ms. Roxanne, and they're going to say a few words. Campus Federal is so supportive of the College of Agriculture. They're always reaching out and supporting our endeavors, and they're a sponsor of our speaker series. And so Ms. Roxanne is going to say a few words about Campus Federal and what all they can offer our students and faculty.
Thank you so much. Yes, Campus Federal is very excited to partner with the LSU College of Ag for the Alumni Speaker Series. This is a great opportunity for students to hear from alumni and get valuable information that'll help them with future success. And honestly, that's what Campus Federal is here for. We want to partner with you to help you on your road to success. That's on the financial side. We have been a part of the LSU campus since 1934, so a long time. And we offer, the savings accounts, checking accounts, credit cards, and all types of loans. So we are locally based and we're eager to help you. So you can call us or go online to see what financial services that we offer. So I just want to thank the College of Ag for this opportunity to just talk to you today a little bit about what we do here on the campus. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Roxanne. And again, thank you for partnering with us and continuing to partner with us on this event. So we're about to get started. Before we do, I just want to remind you guys at the end of this speaker series today, we'll have a brief survey. I encourage you to take a minute to give us your feedback. As you know, we can only improve if we know, things that you would like us to see in the future. And so please take a minute to take the survey for us. So before I let Zach introduce our speaker, we just want to say congratulations to he and his wife, Dana. Today is their 25th wedding anniversary, and he has chosen to spend some time with us today. And so congratulations, Dr. Fields and Dana. 25 years, what an accomplishment. And so surprise, courtesy of Dr. Martin. So no, congratulations again. Let Zach take it from here with the introduction.
Yeah, thank you again, Ms. Lindsay, and thank you everyone for joining this virtual collaboration event with Southern University's College of Agriculture, Family and Consumer Sciences. Being able to partner with Southern University and both ag centers is definitely, it creates a big impact and expands those networks for our students. And so we're grateful that all of you take the opportunity and time out your day to join our events and support agriculture as a whole. And so again, my name is Zach Mayfield, and I'm currently serving as the Public Relations Chair of the Agriculture Student Association here at LSU. I'm a College of Agriculture Life Voyager and a few other roles in different organizations on campus with the Dean staff and Office of Recruitment and Retention. But before we introduce our guest speaker, let's just touch on a little of the Zoom house rules. So we encourage you to turn on your cameras if you can and listen to our speaker. And if there are any questions, we can utilize the chat section for those. But now, without further ado, our alumni speaker today is Dr. Deacue Fields. And Dr. Fields received his bachelor's degree from Southern University in 1993, a master's degree from University of Missouri in 1995, and then he returned home to Louisiana and earned his doctorate in ag economics in 2002 from LSU's College of Agriculture. And so upon graduation, he joined the faculty at Auburn University as an assistant professor and extension economist, and was promoted to associate professor in 2007. And then in 2013, he was promoted to professor and chair of the Department of Agriculture Economics and Rural Sociology at Auburn University. While he was also at Auburn, he coordinated the Alabama Farm Analysis Program. And then here recently in 2017, Dr. Fields was named the Dean of the Dale Bumpers College of Agricultural, Food and Life Sciences at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and he continues to hold this position today. Throughout Dr. Fields' career, he's been able to serve on numerous boards and committees, which some include the Council on Food and Agricultural Resource Economics Board, and he's the president of the Southern Agricultural Economics Association. In his position as dean of the Dale Bumpers College of Agriculture, he's able to manage the budget, operations, personnel, and academic programs, and he's also able to provide a vision for the college that helps increase national and international prominence. He oversees efforts for student recruitment and innovative and relevant learning platforms and career prep for his students there in the University of Arkansas. And so Dr. Fields also has 3 boys with his wife, Ms. Dana, and we would like to everyone to join me in welcoming Dr. Deacue Fields.
Well, thank you very much, Zach, for that introduction. And first, I just want to express my gratitude for the invitation to participate in this event. Thank you for everyone who took the time to join today. I know we all are busy. Lindsay, I appreciate you keeping me on track. And I want to say a special thank you to my longtime friend, Amanda Martin, for presenting this opportunity to me. So I'm still kind of getting used to speaking to an audience on Zoom. So just bear with me. I'm usually pretty animated and like to draw energy from the reaction of the crowd, which is kind of tough to do virtually. So when I was preparing for this, I was discussing this with my wife, and I said in person, I usually tell a few jokes, but it's tough to tell if everyone got the joke on Zoom. And she said, I've heard some of your jokes, and even if you're in person, they laugh, they're probably just being nice because they can see you. So I'm going to try to stay away from my version of humor today and just give you a few thoughts. So honestly, I really wish that I could be with you in the great state of Louisiana and really enjoy some of the good food and crawfish. It's that season and it's hard to get them here, but we can get them here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. But as an ag economist, it's kind of tough for me when they cost $4.50 a pound live and $11.50 boiled. They just don't taste the same. So, I haven't indulged a whole lot, but still miss that tradition. So kind of to give you a little bit about my background, and Zach has shared a lot. I'm from Winsboro, Louisiana, so the northeast portion of the state, and my wife is actually from Jennings, Louisiana. And we will be celebrating our 25th anniversary. So it's a pretty exciting time. But this slide just kind of gives you some of the things that we are doing with our three sons on a daily basis. So it's football, showing livestock, fishing, traveling, enjoying nature. And, that's kind of, what is the things that keep me motivated, kind of spending time with them and really put family at the top of a lot of things that I do. So give you some background on me in Winsboro. I grew up, and my mother's father owned a small cotton and soybean farm in Winsboro. And from that farm, he sent 9 children to Grambling State University, and they all graduated with a degree in education. And so basically, I was born into a family where agriculture and education were of utmost importance. So most of my aunts and uncles were teachers in the local schools, and they also married teachers in the school system as well. And what that really meant was that I was always in trouble at school. And so it was something that was hard to get by if you had an aunt or uncle that someone would turn you into. So learned a lot from that experience. Now we'll talk about it a little bit more later. So my dad was actually a high school ag teacher at first. He ended up working for his Farm Service Agency as a loan officer, and he retired working for the state of Louisiana. And we always had a small farm. And when I was 13, we had to sell our entire herd, our cattle herd, due to brucellosis. And at 13 years old, my dad gave me the challenge of restarting our cattle herd with the youth loan and maintaining all the financial records. So, I was 13 with the checkbook and a ledger, trying to learn how to operate a farm. So this was really my first exposure to agribusiness, but not really the reason that I would say I chose this as a career area. So, I grew up in sports, showing steers, heifers, quarter horses, and my oldest son, who's 19 now, actually won the AQHA Youth World a few years back. My middle kid is the daredevil and, very athletic, and he's usually on something with wheels on it, not involved in the animal agriculture at all. But now my 13-year-old son is showing steers in Arkansas, and we just started a small cattle operation. So getting back to being the farmer dean, I guess. So I've always loved competition. I've never been afraid of hard work. And I think that every kid should have the experience of cutting, loading, and hauling a few thousand square bales of hay in Louisiana in July. So that will help you develop character and work ethic. So, I'll talk a little bit about my journey. And I think Zach is kind of shared the places I've been, and you'll see the different universities that I've been to. But really, my first job was actually as a budget analyst for the governor of the state of Missouri. But I knew right away that it wasn't the place for me. So it was really too structured. I had to wear a coat and tie every day. I was like 23 years old, looking at budgets and crunching numbers 8 hours a day. So just wasn't the fit for me. So about 4 months into that, I started looking for jobs and got an academic position at Florida A&M University. and had the opportunity to go there and serve as the director of small farm outreach. And I would say that is where I kind of found my passion for academia and extension work. And so, it progressed on and, ended up here in Arkansas at this point. But, I'll say the one thing that I say I learned throughout this entire journey is the importance of building quality, diverse relationships. So it's my belief and my philosophy that, here at the university, I can't build our college effectively by staying on campus and not engaging and building relationships with our alumni and stakeholders. I'm a firm believer in the importance and the power of relationships. When you have healthy relationships, you know who to call no matter what the need may be. And also you have to be committed to doing all you can to be a resource when someone calls on you. So, talking about relationships, when I got to Missouri from Southern, it was a complete culture shock. And, I felt really confident that Southern had prepared me academically, but I quickly learned that really that wasn't quite enough. I was extremely guarded at the time and cautious when developing new relationships with people who weren't just like me. So after attending, Southern, I kind of felt like I was almost in a foreign land, going to Mizzou. In 1993, when I started, there were only 400 African-American students on Mizzou's campus. And I'm coming from Southern where at the time, there were almost 12,000. So, one day I actually called home and I talked to my dad and I told him about how uncomfortable I was. At the time when I got there, I would, stop at the red light and people would like be staring in my car. And so, it really made me feel uncomfortable. So I had a classmate who was a white female. So I told her about it and she just started laughing. And I was thinking this is pretty serious stuff. But she said, you don't have anything to worry about. Most of the African-American males with the car on campus are athletes and they just want to see who you are. And I was like shocked. So, really, I kind of listened to that. And so I wanted to kind of test the theory and she was actually right. So, after I kind of learned what the issue was, I started rolling down the window and waving and, I actually even signed a couple of autographs there, and made the most of it. So but the big difference was asking the question. My perception was really not reality in that situation. And, at Mizzou, the department head when I started was Brady Deaton, who ended up chancellor of the university, but he was very intentional. And I learned a lot from watching his leadership. When I started, he paired the new students with more established students, and he paired me with an Asian female PhD student. And that was, I was thinking, whoa, this is going to be an interesting, kind of relationship here. But, she was quantitatively strong and I was a very strong writer and it really worked out. It was really, I would say, one of the best things that could ever happen. I at that point learned a lot and I let my guards down and started building relationships. And if you are currently going about your life and you have not made an effort to get to know anyone who doesn't look like you, act like you, or think like you, you're really cheating yourself. So I quickly learned that I couldn't be successful alone and that it takes relationships and diverse relationships. And I always tell students, do not let yourself get isolated. We watch these shows on National Geographic and the main goal of the predator is to separate its prey from the pack. So when you get separated, you're vulnerable and it's easy to fall victim to the predator and deal with defeat. But there's just strength in numbers. So, you have to network, you have to seek your resources that you need for success. You will never make it as an island, no matter how smart you are, you have to look at other resources and develop a network. So throughout the journey, I've seriously dealt with issues of credentials being challenged, intelligence being questioned, being passed over for opportunities, invalidated, disrespected, racially profiled, been detained by police. So all of those things still happen. And definitely made to feel like, you really don't belong. But, I have always know that I have to be prepared to be unreasonably or unjustly challenged. I have to be prepared to work twice as hard and expect half the credit, and also stand up to individuals who don't support diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so how do we change that mindset in terms of DE&I? You know, what do we do in agriculture where, you know, it seems to be a constant struggle? So, and I think it really starts with a conversation. But it seems like sometimes we want to stop with the conversation and we should keep on. At some point, we really have to act. You know, the George Floyd murder, you know, one of the things that was pivotal to me and my family is that several families in the neighborhood wanted to really understand, you know, how this impacted us. And so our entire family we had dinners and discussions with families in the neighborhood. And one of the most interesting things to me was that most of the people that we had dinner with either had never been to dinner with a Black family or they had never been to a Black family's house for dinner. So, you know, I'm not sure what they were expecting, but it was just a pretty rich experience to kind of have that sharing part of that food. You know, I think food really brings everybody to the table. So, but you know, I think before we really even think about diversity, we really need to start with just dealing with the humanity. And why not begin with thinking about what we have in common? Just the humanity. At the core, most of us share the same desires to earn a decent living, to be safe, be healthy, have a good family, enjoy relationships, and contribute to society. So when we focus on humanity, we see where we're all similar and interdependent versus embracing major differences. And I know that change is uncomfortable. It requires courage. It requires resilience. It requires some commitment and resource commitments at that. And as a leader, sometimes we have a vision and know where we want to go, but we really want to kind of take the easy way out. And I call it just swing across the canyon versus go through the valley. And, you know, I'm guilty of that sometimes also, but, you know, to get where we need to get with building a healthy community, we have to go through the valley and experience the bumps and bruises on the way down, as well as the exhausting work that's required to climb back out of that valley. We spend a lot of time and resources trying to rapidly create a more diverse community, but it takes time and buy-in to get everybody on the same page. And, you know, everybody really starts at a different place and we have to recognize that. And, you know, when we were showing horses, we'd get a new horse in and of course we would get one in the rough and, you know, we'd work to get its hair coat shiny and, you know, I'd wash them, spray them, condition them, show sheen them, oil them, brush them, you know, and a few days later, they would still be looking dull. And one day my dad pulled me aside and he said, son, you can spray him, you can sheen him and gloss him with everything you can find. But until you start with this nutrition and get that right and get the inside right, the outside will never change. And so that was a very profound statement. You know, we spend time and money making sure our organizations are healthy, and we forget to invest on the inside. We spend money on glossing over what we really need to do to make meaningful change. So when I was department chair at Auburn, you know, I noticed that our graduate students were extremely segregated. So to address this, I decided to start what we call the multicultural potluck. And so everybody would bring a dish from their country or their region of the US. Staff would develop recipe cards and 2 or 3 people would dress in their traditional attire and present on the economy, tourism, agriculture, talk about important customs and myths from their area. And this turned out to be extremely transformational. So everybody was always excited and looking forward to sharing and talking about things that happened with them. And everybody was extremely attentive to learn what was going on in other countries and around the world. And soon everybody started talking, you know, and so I would challenge all of us to really ask ourselves to be honest about the quality of the relationships you have with people from different backgrounds. Usually they're surface, and, you know, we have to spend time learning from everyone in our organization. You know, personally, I talk to everyone. I spend as much time talking to faculty, staff, and students as I do talking to the cleaning staff and the grounds crew and the maintenance crew. I can tell you something about everyone who's part of our organization. And it doesn't matter, you know, what their, you know, status is on the payroll status is, you can learn something from all of them. And so I think it's important that you embrace all of those relationships. I challenged our department heads to stop and talk to students when they see them, and especially our underrepresented students, our students from underrepresented backgrounds. And why is that important? After going to Mizzou, and kind of having that true feeling of isolation for a little while, I told them that, at times you may be the first and only person who's ever acknowledged that student and acknowledged that they actually exist on campus. And I can't tell you how powerful it is to know that someone sees you and that someone cares. And so I've had student after student tell me about incidences where someone reached out to them and how much difference that made in their overall career. So the next point I want to make is that you have to be prepared to work hard. So Thomas Edison said, opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like hard work. So I mentioned Hall and Hayes. So I'll say my dad instilled in me the philosophy that when a job needed to be done, sometimes you couldn't stop until it was done. I recall, one summer evening where we had hay baled and it was rain in the forecast for the next day. And so quitting was not an option. No matter what we did, we were not going to let the hay get wet because it's no good. And so we hauled hay until almost 2 o'clock in the morning until we got everything done. And that was a true challenge, but it really taught me something about the importance of hard work and the payoff from it. So school is hard. Each day on our job, we should work hard. And I really think that hard work is the difference between being good and being great. Most successful people can tell you a story about something related to hard work that changed who they are and what they became. So one day when I first got here, I was interviewed by one of our ag comm students, and she asked me, she said, "What really drives you to work so hard?" And so I gave her an answer. I love working with people. I enjoy competition. But she stopped and said, "But what really drives you?" Say, working with livestock, working with students, helping faculty reach their goals. And she kept going, "What really drives you?" No answer really seemed to satisfy her. So it's kind of frustrating. So she said, "What are the things that really make you stay up late at night? If you combine all these things that you've talked about, what makes you stay up late at night and get up early every morning and want to come to work?" And so it really bothered me and it was kind of perplexing. So, I thought about it long and hard. And one night it kind of came to me, that thing that really pulled everything together that drives me. And, for me, I think is adding value and seeing things grow and seeing things change. If I don't feel like I can add value, I can't find a way to add value, it's difficult for me to be motivated about doing something. So, I talked about with livestock, I always bought an animal in the rough and I would keep all this data, take photos and see how they changed and keep meticulous records to look at what happened to make that change. Same with students and faculty. I want to see, how I can improve and the resources I can invest to help them excel and transform their trajectory. But that requires hard work. And I'll give you a quick story about when I was a freshman at Southern. I actually started off at Southern as an animal science major. So I had every intention of being a vet. But, vet school requires chemistry, and chemistry and I weren't the best friends. So I wasn't doing well in chemistry and, but I had an economics course that I kind of understood a little bit and felt like I could work a little hard in economics and be okay. But, once I kind of got in that chemistry exam, I got my first exam back in economics where I felt like I'd done okay, but I got a number grade of a 59. So it freaked me out. I thought I was about to flunk out of school. So I started studying economics like crazy. I was studying up at night, just really trying to make sure I understood it to improve my grade. And so I took the next exam and really felt confident. But before I got that grade on the second exam, we got our midterm grades back, and that 59 was actually a B. So, the 59 was better than I expected. And I really know that I wouldn't have worked as hard if I had known that was a B. So I was anchoring based upon thinking I was failing. And so I made a 90 on the second exam, and it was an actual 90. And at that point, the professor called me and he said, "Look, you seem to really get this economic stuff. And I think you need to consider, a degree in business or economics. As you made by far the highest grade in the class." And so the whole thing of why I became an ag economist, I would say I would credit chemistry and not knowing that I had a 59 as the true reason that I, kind of gravitated toward ag economics. The third point I want to make for our students is don't be afraid of failure. You know, when my son, who is now 13, was learning to ride a bike, you know, I did what every parent does. And, you know, once we took the training wheels off, I get him started. And, you know, when I let him go, of course, you run beside him, you know, and when I saw he was about to fall, I grabbed the bike really fast, and it kind of hurt him a little bit. And you know, he said, "Dad, you hurt me." And, you know, he's kind of pretty gruff about us. And he said, "Just let me go." And, you know, I'm like explaining, you know, I was trying to catch you before you fell. You know, I wasn't trying to hurt you. And he looked at me and he made a very profound statement that I'll never forget. He said, "Dad, how many kids do you know who learned how to ride a bike and they didn't fall?" And so I thought about that for a minute, but what that taught me was that falling is just part of the process. Part of the process of him being successful required that he falls sometimes. And so you learn from your failures. So one of the greatest lessons of this generation is how to deal with failure. There's so many individuals who are accustomed to making all A's, being on top, and a small challenge or a failure, it can be devastating. So successful people don't quit after the first failure. They, you know, look at ways that they can succeed. You know, all the lessons are actually in the failure. If you think about the exams that you took, and you miss something on that exam, when you get the exam back, you remember that one that you missed sometimes more than the ones that you got right. So when someone tells you that you're going to fail, you tell them, yeah, you're probably right, but let them know that failure is part of what will help you succeed, and it's not really supposed to be easy. You know, failure is what makes winners stronger, and but it can make some give up. So when we think about some of the greats in our history, I think of like Michael Jordan. You know, everybody knows Michael Jordan for being, you know, one of the top athletes, or we call him the GOAT or whatever. So, but Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots, and he missed a winning shot in 26 games. You know, I go to Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had over 1,000 failed experiments before he got that one success. And even Edison, as brilliant as he was, he knew that he couldn't do it alone. He partnered with Lewis Latimer, the son of a slave, and Latimer invented the carbon filament that made the light bulb burn longer and more affordable for consumers. We never think to associate these historic figures with failure, because that tremendous success that resulted from them, you know, just doing something outside of the box. And how many of us would have given up after the first 100 experiments, or the first 300 or 500 experiments? You've done this 500 times and nothing's happening, and you are continuing to fail over and over again. So what kept them driving despite constant failure? And I would contend that it was vision and passion. So Nelson Mandela said that there is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. All right, so the last point I want to make is that you should always be willing to challenge the status quo. So I would contend that we don't grow organizations when we do things the way that they've always been done. When we don't ask why. When we don't ask that why question, we just really settle. So not many question why, and even fewer are willing to truly challenge the status quo. As a leader, it's not always the question that, you know, I want to hear, primarily because there's not always a logical explanation. Some administrators actually get offended when you ask them why. They want to give the answer that your parents gave when we asked them why, and they didn't have a logical answer. And what answer was that? They would say, because I said so. So that, you know, we all heard that from parents. It's just because I said so. So, but still, we have to be willing to ask that why question. And so I go back now. So I mentioned earlier that my mom had 9 brothers and sisters in education. All of them were married to school teachers or principals. And so throughout my career from kindergarten through 12th grade, I had an honor uncle at every school that I went to, and kind of was a tough thing. So when I was in the 5th grade, I was in my uncle's math class, and he had pretty much reached his limit with me. And he told me that, you know, he was tired of me making all the noise, and he took me to the principal's office. So when I got to the principal's office, the principal said, Fields, what in the world are you doing in my office? And my reply was, I really don't know. He says I'm here for disruptive behavior, but I really don't even know what that means. And that really made my uncle upset. So he was upset. So part of my punishment was writing out definitions for disruptive behavior. I don't know how many of you got the chance to write lines, but we used to have to write lines. So after reading that definition, you know, I kind of realized that my dad showed a disruptive behavior when I got home that evening. But, you know, I learned a lot from that, and I reflected and digested what it meant to be disruptive. And I came to the conclusion that disruptive behavior may not be all bad, and it could be just part of who I am. So, and don't think I'm, you know, Arkansas has hired someone who's a super radical or anything, but I'm going to give you some of the definitions. So disruptive, causing trouble and therefore stopping something from continuing as usual. Behavior that interferes with the functioning and flow of the workplace. Behavior that prevents something from continuing or operating in a normal way. So we talk about like a disruptive innovation. It's an innovation that creates a new market or a new value network, a new product or service that or idea that radically changes the industry or business strategy, especially by creating a new market and completely disrupting an existing one. So, you know, I don't mean innovation, doing things a little better, doing the same things better, but disruption means doing things in a way that makes old things completely obsolete. So you have to continue to work until you can completely change the game. And, you know, I'm sure I could set some goals and accomplish some things and, you know, continue to be successful. However, my goal is to do something that someone would consider impossible. And I've always believed that the impossible just takes a little bit longer to accomplish. So, you know, examples when we talk about things that I would say are disruptive innovations that have happened in our lifetime. So, with mine anyway. So, smartphones. You know, we didn't have, you know, to get a phone, to walk around with a phone was impossible. Uber, you know, the largest company doesn't own one car. I don't know how many of you even remember Blockbuster, but you go to a place and rent a movie, and then Netflix came along. We have precision ag and drones now. We have artificial intelligence. We have driverless tractors. So these things are completely changing the game, but it requires you to take risks. And so disruptive behavior requires you to be willing to fail and be comfortable with failure. It requires you to believe in yourself, also in your abilities. As a faculty member, it initially seemed that deans were like these superhuman individuals, that something that you could never achieve. But I realized that the main thing was not intellect, intelligence, or work ethic, but it was just exposure. So it's hard to coach the game if you've never been on the team and never seen the rules of the game. And now I have to say that at all levels, I've been very fortunate to have someone who is willing to be a mentor and show me the rules. But you still have to study, and you have to have a strategy, and you have to be confident, because if you're being disruptive and you're not confident, you know, in your vision, you're going to get eaten alive. So you have to own the moment and you know, do what you say you're going to do. So when I got there, I realized that I realized that 60% of our students were from 3 counties in the state of Arkansas. And that really bothered me, because it was not in the areas where we had large agriculture that our students came from. So, you know, I was looking at how we could change that. So it was a 5-hour drive to our row crop production areas. And so I had the vision of hiring a contract recruiter who lived and who worked in that area that was 5 hours away from campus. And I wanted to pay him a lump sum. I, you know, wanted them to reach certain milestones. I wanted them to live, breathe, and work in that area. So perfect profile was a stay-at-home mom or an entrepreneur or business person who believed in our college and who could relate to students in the region. I started that journey and I was constantly told no, but, you know, I was, you know, going back and forth, and every time they would give me a roadblock, I would try to come up with a new strategy. We went through IRS issues, legal liability, HR issues, but you know, I didn't stop. So we went through this for over a year. And one day the university general counsel called me and he said, I think we have a solution to this regional recruiter position you want to do. So a few months later, we were advertising. And, you know, I will say that, you know, one thing that I've realized is that and this is going to my last slide, that you not only have to be optimistic, but also a leader when you want to change the status quo. This last slide says the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects the winds to change, but the leader adjusts the sails. So I'll stop there and take any questions. Thank you very much.
So feel free, y'all can add your questions to the chat, or you should be able to unmute yourselves as well. Dean Fields, I do have a question for you in terms of like your transition from like faculty to department head to your current leadership role. What were like the strongest, or I guess the like biggest obstacles that you had to overcome as you transitioned to those different leadership positions, and advice that you would give even to graduate students that we'd have on the call, or other faculty members that are looking to go into those type of leadership positions?
Certainly. So really the toughest transition was actually from the faculty position to department head. And a lot of that was because I was in the same place and it was difficult to separate from my current responsibilities. So, and I really didn't know all the things that a department head would do. So, I give the analogy of that is like it was truly drinking from a fire hose, because I had, I think, 3 graduate students. I had several grants operating. I was teaching courses still, and transitioning to a leadership role where you never evaluated people, you never really, made budget decisions and things like that. And I don't know all I could have done to prepare for it. It's always good if a university has some type of leadership and training type program, or make sure that individuals get involved in as much leadership training as possible, because it was like a shock everything was coming at you. And then we were in the middle of an academic program review at the same time. So my first semester, I barely can remember. It just happened so fast. And so, I would say that transition was difficult. And, there were a lot of things, just having to learn things on the fly and make decisions on the fly. And really, there's so many things that you would never expect that you see happening in a unit. And so really coming from the department head's position to a dean's position was actually a somewhat easier transition. And a part of it was, I kind of completely disconnected from everything that I was doing at Auburn, and, came to a new place. So email went from about 200 or so a day down to 5 or 10, because I was kind of the new person there. So that worked out well. So it took a while for everybody to know where I was. And kind of at that point, I was building relationships. So the challenge was that I left Auburn, where I've been for 16 years and knew everybody and had this support base, to go into Arkansas, where I really didn't know but a few people. So I had to start building those relationships like immediately. And so that was a big transition. But, I will say that, I kind of give the analogy of being the dean, is more like plate spinning than drinking from a fire hose, because I kind of learned as a department head everything that, you kind of need to do to make a department successful. So now I just had 9 departments in a school of human sciences that I had to kind of manage. So I knew what I felt all of them kind of should be doing. But, you have so many things going on that you look down and you see the plate is about to kind of fall off the stick. You have to run down and spin that plate and keep it going. You look back and another one's about to fall off. So it was more so a time management issue, and look at how you can have people that you trust to help you keep everything going. And so that was the part that I would say is really building, trust among new staff, and understanding, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and who will follow through to kind of help you keep your initiatives going.
Hi, Dr. Fields. This is Tracy Evans. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. We are in the midst of I work for not only the College of Agriculture and the LSU Ag Center, but also the LSU School of Veterinary Medicine. And we are in the midst of a search for a new dean, and I am cursing chemistry right now.
I understand.
You would have been amazing. Thank you for your time today.
Certainly, I appreciate you.
Dean Fields, this is Monica again. I have a question for you. How did you find mentors and sponsors to move through your career so that you could learn how to spin the plates and how to maintain that time?
Very, very good question. I think that, mentors can, a lot of times people think of, pairing you with a mentor that is in a department, it's someone that is, kind of doing something similar to what you're doing, or someone even in your state or your area. But, I kind of, from, going to national meetings and observing, I've initiated the initial conversation a lot of times. So I was if I saw someone that I felt was an excellent leader, or, kind of operated in a way that I would like to learn more about, I would reach out to them and see if they'd be interested in, just discussing things or discussing their pathway. And I learned a lot from several individuals, and stay in contact with probably 5 or 6 people who I would call mentors even today. And there are times where there are difficult decisions that you have to make, and someone out of that group has probably seen something similar. And I guess the biggest thing is, everybody's busy, and so a lot of times you make the first phone call, they may not call you back, but you have to be persistent and make sure that they really understand that you want mentoring, that you are interested in kind of understanding how they got where they are. And so that level of persistence, I'll say, is what was the thing. And now it's pretty natural. And it's probably the strangest thing now is that my mentors sometimes call me and we have discussions about things they're dealing with. And so that's an interesting part of it. You kind of start seeing that two-way street, and you want to be able to offer something back when you're talking to people who you kind of see now as colleagues. And there are issues that they're dealing with that I may have a strength in as well. So, but it's more so kind of having some follow through, reaching out, looking for who that person is that you kind of admire as a leader, and trying to make sure you can develop a relationship with them.
Dean Fields, this is Gina Eubanks. How are you today? Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation.
Good to see you.
My question to you would be, how do you handle having the difficult conversation?
So the difficult conversations really come with the territory, and if they weren't difficult conversations, they would be called something else, I guess. But I've always kind of always tried to make sure I looked at the individual and thought of them as almost like a family member, and made sure I started off that conversation thinking of fairness and what is fair as an outcome. And I think when you do that, you kind of draw yourself back, and you're making an objective decision, but there is always a level of subjectivity there that you have to consider. So you just have to address them, and if problems don't go away because you don't deal with them. So I don't, it's one of those things that I don't just love to do. And I actually have an associate dean who probably loves taking on some of those things even more than I do. So some of them she actually takes on. But when it's a big issue, I'm very willing to sit down, have a discussion, understand first, what made this situation difficult, and one of the toughest things is when someone's not performing, and you have to think about their family, you have to think about all types of stuff, but you also have to think about the investment for the organization. I just this week, and even after this meeting, I have one of those difficult conversations where, it's a matter of, okay, you guys have hired me to make decisions that I feel will be best for the organization. And at the point that you don't trust me to do that, then you need to find another leader. And so, I think that you have to be almost that blunt, but that confident also that you are And if you're making that difficult call, you have to be able to have a justification as to why you're doing that, and really be able to articulate that and explain it. Just making the call and leaving everybody, blind about why you made the call really causes more confusion than anything. So you have to have the conversation with sometimes more than that individual to talk about, whatever is legally possible to talk about, here's where we're going. And I think that kind of helps to soften the blow, but it's a blow.
Thank you very much.
A question in the chat. Dr. Fields, do you want me to ask it for you?
Yes,
Or do you... Okay. What is your advice for students on making a career pathway switch compared to their program of study and being able to find confidence to do that?
So changing the career pathway.
Yeah.
So, I think that, it's most students don't end up exactly where they start off. The whole university or college experience is an experience of exploration. So, that's really why a lot of times you have this common core where you kind of get exposed to a lot of things in those first couple of years. And so, I would say that the most important thing in making that switch is, once you realize that where you are may not be the best fit, read, study, and try to find out as much about other options as you can, and then go sit down and talk to the faculty and talk to students in that area. And you'd be surprised how faculty are extremely excited to talk about what they do. And most faculty want to kind of express kind of things, the research they're doing, or what people with those degrees are doing at that point. So talk to that person in student services. Almost every unit will have a kind of student services component where they are there to kind of be able to expose you to all the career options and kind of the things that you can do from that individual major. I always tell people to intern if possible. Make sure you can have an experiential learning experience to see if you really like what you think you like, and so you grow from that. And I think that's always a good thing to go out and do that and kind of learn if this career path is what's really right for you.
I have a question. So you mentioned, driverless tractors and precision agriculture. How is your college adjusting curriculums to meet those needs for students and career-wise?
Yes. So as all of you in academia know, that one of the toughest things to do is change the curriculum. And that's because people are always so bought into, the courses they taught, and that making sure that everybody who comes behind took the same courses that the ones that before them took. So it's a difficult thing. But, I think that, what I require now is every time someone leaves, or every 2 years anyway, we go through kind of a strategic process where every department has to look at what would you do for the next 3 positions you would hire. If you're looking at the next 3 positions in your unit, who would you hire and why? And so it takes the idea of, when someone leaves, let's find someone just like them and replace them, to a more of a strategic standpoint of saying, this is what's happening in our society. This is where our degree program should be going. And here are some reasons why I would like to have this type person. And so that adjusts according. So you may have a resignation or retirement and kind of have to readjust that, but they've had a chance to kind of think about who is it or what is it we really want to be. And so it's a matter, a lot of times it's been driven more so by industry though. So I try to make sure that, we connect with industry, that ag tech area. One of our alums owns John Deere franchise. And so he is the one who kind of gives us the feedback as to what is necessary for this ag tech type area. What type person do they want to employ? And really when you have that connection, we had that discussion. And so he said, this is kind of who we need and what we want to do. So that ended up being a huge endowment that he actually made and invested in us trying to develop that. So I think having that conversation and making sure you are staying in touch with, with industry and understanding where industry is going. You have to really, continue to do that on a constant basis.
Deacue, this is Matt Fannin. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing, Matt?
All right. Interesting. Here's a question. I mean, we have a dean here in front of us presenting and talking about careers, and I think and those types of things. But I'm very interested in the narrative of the dean and his role outside of being dean, that is with his family and things. How do you balance your time? And everyone gets trained in their area discipline. Maybe it's agronomy or animal science. We're ag economists. What is the thing you took from your training as an ag economist that helped you the most in your family life, and what hurt you the most in your family life?
That's a tough one. But so I'll talk about just that balance. So you have to be extremely intentional with balancing that family and work component, because you can get drawn into working all day long. I never worry about truly being caught up, because I don't think it's possible. I do all I can and try to get the most out of every day. I feel the unforgiven minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run every day. But I'll say that I don't sleep a lot, first of all, and and I've been able to manage that, and as I'm hitting that 50 mark, that's changing a little. But really, so I kind of have a pretty structured day where and pretty regimented, and try to make sure I do as much work as I can at work. But really, when I get home, say 5:30, between 5:30 and 9, it's all kid time and family time. And so I don't typically, unless I really know you, I'm not going to answer my phone between that time, between 5:30 and 9, unless it's my dad or something like that. And so kids know that we're going to do something. If we, whatever, I'm actually probably washing cows or cleaning stalls in the evening, just kind of as a break to relax. But then at 9 o'clock, typically the kids are winding down or doing what they have to do. And I pull the computer out, and the wife is kind of used to me talking and to her and doing emails and things like that. And so she's asleep by 10 o'clock just about every night. And I have a good 2 solid hours of peace to stay up and kind of get caught up and strategize for the next day. One thing also that I'll say is that I did was, as a dean, protected some of my time. So when I first got here, it was overwhelming, the number of meetings that you had. I had one time I looked at a week, and I'd had 44 meetings in 1 week. And so you're continuing to be reactive in that case. So every week I'll have at least 4 hours in that week, a 4-hour block where I can't be disturbed. And so that has made me more productive than anything else, to be able to sit down and look at the notes I have and kind of strategize. Usually it's Friday morning. The first part of Friday morning is just stewardship, and I write 3 handwritten thank you notes every Friday morning. Kind of just, thinking of somebody who's done something, for the college, maybe a faculty member, maybe a student, maybe an alum or whatever. So just kind of being that structured. From the perspective of the profession, I think that for me, it's, kind of the ag economics and ag business part. It makes you think about strategy. It makes you think about being optimal. And so that budget and optimization, kind of how do you get the most out of these resources that you're providing? And I think that sometimes in looking at, even other deans or whatever, that's kind of one of the challenges from some other areas. But we kind of train to kind of think about, that budget perspective and that type thing. And so that's been a good thing to have that type background. And, the thing and I guess that can be a blessing and a curse also, because, I like to have a lot of information, put in the model to make a decision sometimes. And so, sometimes, you don't get a chance to have that information. You got to make that decision. But I'm really wired to, take in this information, kind of have a lot of information to make an educated or informed decision. And so that, that could be one of the big challenges from it, not being able to do that, because you're kind of wired that way, for using information to make a call. So hope that answers it.
Do we have any more questions? It is 12:34, so I want to be thoughtful of everyone's time and Dr. Fields' time today as well. I appreciated your 10 to 12 piece comment at night. Do we have any questions? Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Fields. We really appreciate again you spending time with us today. Happy anniversary from
Thank
your
you.
College of Ag family. And students, I put in the chat the survey for everyone to please complete before signing off. And hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks so much. And that is the end of our session. I'll press stop recording.